Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's WordPress.com webinar. And excuse me, I've got a froggy in my throat, and I'm really excited that you're all here. And we've got a really exciting hello, everyone.
Oh,
welcome to
hang on a moment.
Today's WordPress.com webinar. And excuse me, I've got a froggy in my throat. So what we have happening there, you could probably hear that background. We are doing a test today where we are actually live streaming on YouTube as well. And that little delayed repeat of my voice was it working. So yay. I've paused that over on the other screen now so that we are not seeing or hearing that. Okay, so now that we got the kerfuffle out of the way, welcome everyone. Just taking a quick peek at the chat box. So many people from all over the place. It is absolutely lovely. We've got people from Nigeria, all over the States, some from Canada, which I should pause right there and say, my name is Tanya. I'm a happiness engineer with WordPress.com, and I am from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. So welcome, Canadians. And we've also got Georgina with us, who is one of my colleagues. Georgina's in the UK, or no, Georgina's in Scotland. Georgina just moved, so that's exciting. So she's going to help with some of the questions, and we've got our guest speaker waiting in the background, who I will introduce in just a moment. We've also got people joining us here from Pakistan, and quite a few from Canada. That's nice. Ecuador, Baltimore County, that's more from the States. All over Sweden, UK. My goodness, this is absolutely Philippines. I get so excited about this. South Africa. It's absolutely lovely. I love seeing so many people from all around the world. And I apologize, my voice is still being scratchy. So how today is going to work? We are going to get a live presentation from a very special guest. And then after the presentation, we're going to do some live Q&A. So what I would like to point you to is if you look at your Zoom interface, you're going to see a Q&A and a couple of speech balloons probably along the bottom. Use that section for any questions that you have regarding the presentation. Okay, so if our special speaker here says anything that you have a question about, or if you've brought some of your own questions, use that Q&A box. Georgina and I will be answering some of the things by typing answers. And then afterwards, our guest will, be able to answer things live for you as well. So let me stop referring to him as just our guest, and let's scroll down a bit here and introduce David Zimmerman. All right, David is our special guest today. He has been doing SEO for nearly 15 years, and he's worked with a range of clients. So you can see his bio on the screen there: large companies, small businesses. He's kind of done the whole spectrum there when it comes to working with SEO. He's also a bird lover, so that's kind of fun. Bird watching is a very cool thing. You get to take all your notes and stuff. Love it. And yeah, so without further ado, you can see the topics that David's going to cover. And so at this point, I'd like to go ahead and invite David onto to turn on his video and his audio. And there he is. Hello, David. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
We're excited to have you. I think this is going to be a lot of fun today. So as I was just mentioning there, we've got some topics there that you're going to be helping us out with some effective keyword research and, finding the sweet spot and all that. So we're very excited to hear what you have to share with us today. So I think at this point, you've heard me ramble long enough and tripping over my words and just, having other noises come up. So why don't we go ahead, we'll let David flip over to share his screen, and we'll let him take it away. I'm going to turn off my video and my audio, but I will be lurking in the background. So please be sure to put your questions into the Q&A, and we will be keeping tabs on all your stuff there while David gives us his presentation.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. I'm coming to you from sunny but chilly Charlotte, North Carolina in the United States. And I'm going to move some things around so I'm not too distracted. But hey, so we're going to talk about effective keyword research. This is kind of the starting point for SEO. And what I've found is there's a lot of tutorials out there about how to do keyword research. but most of them are not only English based, but based in the United States, making assumptions about the United States. I want to kind of enable you for all over the world to be able to do the same thing without having to have an Americentric United States focused. Now, you've heard the old joke, what do they call someone who speaks one language or three languages? They're trilingual. What's someone who speaks two languages? They're bilingual. What's someone who speaks one language? Well, they're American. And that's me. I speak un poco de español, but that's about it. So I do have to limit myself to using English, but I think that the lessons we're going to learn today are going to help you no matter where you are, no matter what language you or your audience speaks. And that's kind of what one of the different focuses we're going to have here. So let me go and let's just say hi. I'm David. I've been doing SEO for about 15 years now. I'm a big Star Wars fan and I love Andor. If you've gotten to see that one yet, I have a life goal. My life goal is to visit every national park in the United States. I saw someone say aloha from Hawaii. I did get to visit Haleakala and Mauna Kea, and I'm thinking about you today in light of the eruption. So hope you're all okay and safe. So we're going to talk about keyword research. This is kind of the starting point to SEO. And we're trying to answer some basic questions like just, is your audience even looking for you? SEO does a lot of great things. One of the things it does is it responds to people's demand for what you have to offer. But SEO doesn't work really well if no one's looking for you. So that's what we got to find out with keyword research. But more important than your audience, are your customers looking for you? That's what, and frankly, also, what are they, how are they looking for you? I've worked with all kinds of companies, and it's so easy to, think about the specialty, the expert you are in your field, and speak in technical terms. But sometimes customers aren't sophisticated enough yet. Maybe they're not educated enough yet, and they might use the wrong ideas. Keyword research is a great way for us to make sure we speak not only to the customers and how they're looking for us, but make sure we're using the phrases they're using to find us, right? And once we know this, we kind of have the foundation of a lot of great SEO tasks. A lot of people, when they think of SEO, they think of the on-page optimization. Where do I put my keywords on the page? And that's definitely part of SEO, and the keyword research will help us with that. The keyword research is also really great for content creation. You've heard that content is king. It's kind of a cliche in the web world these days, but it's so true. And what are you going to write about on your WordPress website? Like, what can you talk about? We're going to identify some of that, and other things like link building that are really kind of hinging on keyword research. That if we get a good keyword research process together, we're going to have a lot of the pieces for SEO set up. So let's start. Okay, we're not going to start. We're going to actually ask ourselves a question first. Before we do anything with the keyword research, I want you to ask yourself why you created your website. What do you want your visitors of your website to do? Think about this for a moment. In fact, if you'd like, share it in the chat. What do you want your visitors to do? Do you want them to buy something? Are you selling a product? That's maybe why you built your WordPress website, right? Did you want them to hire you for a service? Okay, great. That's a very legitimate use of a WordPress website. Do you want to have ads and you want to make money because people click on your ads in your WordPress site? Great. That WordPress does that real well. We could do that. Do you want people to sign up on an email list? What do you want out of your website? There might be some other things that people are sharing. Just so look in the chat, look and see what other people are hoping to accomplish from their website. And we have to ask ourselves this, because a website's a tool. It's a tool to accomplish something. And if we don't first identify what we want our visitors to do, we're kind of be spinning our wheels. So we want to focus. So that's just kind of the first thing I want us to be rolling around our head. Once we have that, we're going to start our keyword research process. Now, this is really just 5 steps. And we're going to break it down. We're going to try to use a live example. And I'm going to invite you to answer some questions in the chat, and maybe we can use some of those examples as we go through this together. But the first step for any good keyword research process is just brainstorm. We just want to come up with all the possibilities that someone might use to find us. Once we have the brainstorm list together, we're going to clarify that. We're going to limit it, shrink it a little bit. The third step, and this is the most important step, is to use data to help us identify how people are really looking for what we have to offer. Otherwise, we're just kind of playing a game of, well, what about this word? What about that word? And we just really never get anywhere. If we use data to say, oh, people tend to use this phrase to find what I have to offer, then we can really know what to focus upon. Next, we're going to organize our thoughts together. Keyword research is a little misleading. Google doesn't think in terms of keywords as much as it used to. It thinks in terms of topics. So we got to organize all the keywords together into common topics that many keywords can belong to a topic. And that is kind of how we'll organize things. And then last, we'll begin to focus. And I think this is another area where people get a little confused. They try to optimize all the things, and we want to focus our efforts. So let's jump into an example here. So the first step to keyword research is just brainstorming your keywords. And what I mean by that, it's just going to create a big old list. And when we create this big old list, we kind of, as a best practice within brainstorming, is we almost don't want to edit ourselves, just kind of go for it. I would love to do a live example with this. Now, live examples always go wrong, so we're going to try this. But the best tool I find for using, creating this brainstorm list is just a spreadsheet. I'm just using a Google Sheet. You can use any old spreadsheet you got. There's all kinds of great ones. You don't have to use a spreadsheet, but it does help us a little bit. So it may be someone who's monitoring the chat can help me find an example of maybe a reason why someone built their WordPress website, what they hope to accomplish. That might be a good example for us to pursue. Or maybe we can think of a product or service that someone's offering through their WordPress website. Do we have a good example? I'm not looking at the chat. I'm relying on others to help me with that.
Yeah, and this is Tanya. I'm just kind of scanning through. We've got a lot of people that were answering with things like booking an appointment, purchasing ebooks, editing services, quite a few book-related comments.
Okay. Yeah, let's pretend that we are an editor, right? And so, and we want, that's a great thing. It's a service that we offer. If I could spell. We'll think about this idea of, I offer editor services. I am an editor. Well, we're going to brainstorm off this idea. So there's very different variations. Someone could look for an editor. They could look for editing. They could look for a writer. Maybe they look for content. Maybe they look for blogger. So we're just kind of brainstorming here, right? But we also want to go and use the tools at our disposal. And the best tool to use, frankly, is Google. And there's several aspects of which Google can help us with this brainstorming process. First is the auto suggest. If you go to Google and you type editor, you'll notice that Google will auto-suggest some suggestions. So we want to use those auto-suggestions to kind of build out our brainstorming list. Okay. Photo editor, editor photo. Well, if we're talking about books, we might be talking about word editing, so that might not be a good one. Editorial, that's more of an opinion piece. That might not be a good one. But an editor PDF, that's interesting. You might, as an editor, edit PDFs, but is that a software thing? Well, it's easy to find out what Google means by this. Editor PDF, we click on that, and we find that we're dealing with software, Adobe, things like that. So that's not necessarily what we offer as editor services. So maybe we go and oh, that's a good point, services. What if we looked at editor services? Well, look at this. Now we're starting to get somewhere here. Editor services near me. Sometimes people want to work with a local editor. Editor services for authors. There you go. We're starting to get there. Editor services, Taylor and Francis. I presume that's a company that offers that, but we get editing services, editorial services, editing services online. So we're using this auto suggest feature, and we're going in and we're going to add services. And I'm putting this in a separate column because I'm going to editor services, editing services, right? But what were some of the other things? Near me, for authors, right? So we're kind of using the tools at our disposal to kind of brainstorm. So let's go to editor services here. And we're going to look at a couple things here. Another great source is the people also ask. No, Google, you may not have my location. People also ask. So what we want to do, I recommend you do, is just kind of write down some of these questions. Just look at some of these questions. What are editing services? And what we're going to do with that is we're going to put that in a separate column. We might kind of look at that answer, and oh, look at this. When you look at the answer, it gives you more suggestions. So Google is zoning in on what you mean. What are different types of editing services? How much does it cost to have a book edited? Oh, I like that one. So we're using here the Google Search Console You see what we're doing here? We're using it to find new ideas. We've used it to look at a couple other phrases that we thought might be valuable and realize, oh, editor PDF, but that's software. That's not what we offer. But we're also using it to find other things. I like to also look at the bottom. Look at these other suggestions: academic editing services, professional editor services, proofreading and editing services. Oh, that gives me a great idea, doesn't it? And then we're going to add academic, professional, right? We're just using Google and all these different tools to allow us to kind of see what's going on. Now, there's other tools we can use for brainstorming. Like, for instance, if you already have a website running and you have Search Console, Google Search Console, Google's going to show you the queries people are using to find you. That might be a great way to find additional keywords you can focus on. If you're running Google Ads, I'm not recommending it. I'm just saying if you are, that could be another source for other keyword possibilities. In fact, I'm going to say, please don't think that I'm recommending you run a Google Ads campaign. That's an advanced tactic. Most of what we can do here, we can get so far without spending a dime. And that's really what I'm going to recommend for most of you. Please just focus on the free tools, especially as you're getting started. Well, so we got this really interesting brainstormed list, right? And there's a little tool I like to use. It's a free tool called Merge Words. You can just Google it. And you're going to see why I put things into different categories. So what Merge Words does is it merges words, right? And we can kind of take these lists that we've created and we can merge all these into different combinations. Academic editor services, academic editing services. See what we've done here? Now there's a little trick here. We can put a carriage return at the end of this. And now we get more, because now we'll have all these permutations with or without academic or professional, right? But point is that we've now got 18 different combinations of words here, right? Whew. All right, so we've gotten our brainstorming list. That is the first step. The second step is to clarify our keywords. And this is just kind of to remind ourselves, our website's trying to accomplish something. What do we want it to accomplish? We want to sell a service. In this case, we're an editor. We're providing that as a service. Okay, great. Does it matter where you are as an editor? Well, in some cases it might. Let's say you speak a language that is just very limited to a particular geographic area. Well, the people might be looking for an editor near me, right? And we've seen that because when we did our little search, we identified that Google auto-suggest pointed out that people are looking for editing services near them, right? Near me. For instance, let's say you are selling candles off your WordPress website. Hey, that's cool, right? But you might not be able to ship them literally to anywhere in the world. So you might have a geographic modifier. Let's say you're a plumber and you're providing plumbing services in Morocco. Well, you wouldn't be able to help me with my plumbing services in the United States. So you would need to modify your phrases a little bit more with geographic terms so that, again, we're speaking to our customers. It doesn't do you any good if I, in the United States, find you a Moroccan plumber, because I can never pay you for your services. But in some cases, geography doesn't matter. Also, think about classifiers. We've already talked about we're an editor and we provide editing services. But are there other ways to describe the kinds of things we offer? Editor services, editor, I don't know. An editor might know a better job than this. But you see, we've already kind of gotten here. You know, academic editor might be a good keyword to focus on. But because we provide editing as a service, this making sure we modify it with the services is a really great thing. Now, here is where we get into the real secret of this SEO keyword research kind of thing, and that's called the short and the long tail. This is going to involve a little bit of math, so put on your thinking caps here. So the long tail is the idea that the more specific a keyword might be, the fewer people search for it. Here we see a little graph. The up-down axis reflects how many people are searching. In other words, the most broad phrase a lot of people search for, right? The word editor. A lot of people search for editor. But a lot less people search for editor services. And a lot less people search for academic editor services, right? And a really few people search for academic editor services for chemical engineering PhD students, right? Not very many people search for that. And that's called the long tail. All these very, 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 very specific searches people are looking for on the internet. But here's where this becomes important. While now we're looking at how broad versus specific on the bottom a phrase might be against the conversion rate. In other words, the rate at which someone would be willing to do something. And so what we know about the long tail is the more broad a keyword might be, the lower the conversion rate. yes, editor is a very broad phrase. A lot of people search for editor, but not everyone who types the word editor into Google is looking for an editor. The conversion rates, some might be looking to, how do I become an editor? Some might be, I'm looking into the career. What does this career involve? Some might be looking for a different kind of editor, like an IDE or a development editor. So the conversion rate to what you have to offer is actually pretty low. However, the more specific and closer the keyword is to what you have to offer, the higher the conversion rate. So if you have a PhD in chemical engineering and you talk about academic editor services for chemical engineering PhD students, guess what? Not a lot of people search for that, but if anybody finds you for that, guaranteed business, right? You are there perfect. So the more specific a phrase, the higher the propensity, the opportunity to convert, right? And so this is the secret of converging these things. There's a certain point at which the search volume might be going down for a very broad phrase as it gets more specific, but there's a certain point at which these two graphs meet. And now we want to focus on where that conversion rate is also starting to kick in while there is still a number of people searching for it, right? And that's why it's really important for us to specify, right? If we were to say, editor, I'm an editor, done, keyword research is over, we'd be missing out on a lot of opportunities because, again, that's a very short-tailed keyword. It's very broad. However, if we talk about academic editor services near me, very specific, if you are near them and provide academic editor services, your ability to convert and make that visitor a customer is much greater. So we can't just go, oh, I like the word editor, and say our keyword research is done. We need to get a little bit more specific. So let us pause for a moment before we get into gathering data for our questions, for our keywords. Is there any questions so far that we need to address before we proceed?
We do have a number of questions actually in the Q&A section, and we've been monitoring them and kind of going, oh, geez, this would be great for David to answer. I wasn't really sure. I didn't want to interrupt you either.
That's fine.
Did you maybe want to just open up the Q&A panel on your end? Because I think some of them are a little bit longer and they might be a bit easier for you to just read.
Okay, all right.
Just have a quick browse over a couple there at the top maybe, and then we can answer more at the end as well.
Okay. All right, so someone here is an interesting one. Keywords were used heavily in the past for SEO, but our SEO company is telling us that Google no longer putting that much weight on keywords. Is that true? I don't know, because I don't know how much weight Google puts on it. I do know that ultimately Google uses words to determine what a page is about, right? So you do need to have words on your page that describe what you offer. And so in that sense, Google does care about the keywords. But
David, actually, that just made me think. I wonder if this person is referring to how back in the day we used to have the metadata specific for keywords that we would tuck them into that little section. Maybe that's the part that Google is really looking at.
Yeah, so absolutely, Google does not. In fact, they ignore the keyword meta tag. So I recommend all my clients don't even put it on there. If that's what you're referring to, that's clear. Google doesn't care about the meta keyword tag that once used to be used. Google got tired of people abusing it. But I have heard people say, and this just kind of goes as a principle for SEO. Like everyone's always talking about, well, Google this and Google that. You know what? Whether or not Google cares about or weighs keywords heavily or not, SEO and users go hand in hand. Like even if Google ignored keywords on a page, and frankly, I wouldn't know how they'd rank pages without some kind of content on the page, wouldn't your users feel more confident if they landed on a page and they could see and read clearly that this page is about what they're looking for? So, yes, you can't just use keywords and expect to really have a lot of true SEO success, but you still do need some. There's another interesting question. How do we make our site findable for the near me search? That's a great question. And the answer isn't adding the word near me to your page. The answer is near me is kind of a special phrase in Google's mind. Like Google will say, I don't know if you saw on the screen, when I was doing a Google search, the Google search my browser tried to ask me if I will allow Google to know where I am, right? So Google would be able to know where I am. So when I type, I need pizza near me, because it can tell based on all kinds of things where I am, it will serve answers based on near me. And those websites you'll find don't necessarily include the words near me. However, they will be specific and say, Charlotte, North Carolina pizza, right? Or an address on their website that shows where they are, or maybe a Google Maps listing based on where I am. So this kind of goes into this idea of, once we have our brainstorm together, we want to clarify that. We might want to make sure include like local phrases on our website, so that when someone's going to Google and typing near me, Google has an easier time determining where your website and where your business of your website is located, so that when someone asks a near me question, Google could say, oh yeah, this is near where they are. And so you don't have to use the near me search, but you do, it would benefit you to be specific on where you are. Charlotte, North Carolina is a pretty large city, so you might be more broad. I'm in the Ballantyne area of Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm in the Huntersville area. I'm in South End, right? It's the more data you can give Google, and there's other ways besides keywords, but we're getting way into the weeds of that. So yes, that's probably how the best way to do for the near me search. Are the auto-suggest results determined by your personal algorithm? No, that's what's interesting about the auto-suggest. Auto-suggest is coming from what other people ask. So when you see auto-suggests, what you're seeing, okay, I should clarify this a little bit. Most of the time when you're seeing auto-suggest, it's what everyone else is asking, because Google's trying to provide a service. People ask this, and so they're trying to help you, assuming you might be asking it too. However, if you notice, when you type a word in the Google bar, sometimes you'll get a purple color. That is based on your personal search history. So some of it is going to be based on your personal search history, but most of the suggestions are coming from other users of Google. So, all right. I think that is a good start. I'm going to continue with one of the most important parts of this, which is how to gather data for your keywords. Now, the best place to do this, in my opinion, is the Google Ads Keyword Planner. But again, that requires you to have a Google Ads account, and that is not something I'm going to recommend off the bat for you. Boy, if this wasn't on YouTube right now, I would tell you that I think that Google makes a lot of money from people who pay for AdWords and don't know what they're getting out of it. And so don't join the bunch of people giving Google a lot of money for AdWords if you don't know how to get the maximum benefit from it. But if you do happen to have an AdWords or Google Ads account, the Keyword Planner is the gold standard in my book. There, however, are some great free tools. Of course, there's paid third-party solutions. I honestly don't find them any better than the free tools. And the free tools that I really like to use are Google Trends and Bing Webmaster Tools. So Search Console is Google's Webmaster Tools, shows you how Google interprets your website. Really great free tool. But Bing has another Webmaster Tools. Now, since in the United States, at least, Google has like an 80+% market share, why do we care about Bing? Well, Bing has a lot of really great free tools in their little webmaster tools that I'd suggest could help you do well on Google. And one of them is the keyword research module. However, today I'd like to show you what I do with the Google Trends for keyword data. Okay, so we're going to start with our brainstormed list and clarified list of keywords because we're an editor. We provide editor services, editing services, right? So let's just start here. We're going to start with editor services. We're going to go to trends.google.com. Here's the international aspect. I'm in the United States. Google knows where I live because Google knows everything. I can select any country and I can get the trend data for that country. So we're just going to use the United States for now, but please use the international aspect of Google. We're going to type editor services into the Google Trends bar. And Google says there's a search term for editor services. So we're going to click on that. And of course, Google's going to take a little bit of time. There we go. Okay. What do we got here? We have that Google trend data in the United States for the past 12 months on the web for editor services. And you can see it varies up and down. This is a chart between 100 and 0. 0 meaning nobody's looking for it. 100 means, wow, a lot of people are looking for it. We'll get some other data here too. Interest by subregion. In this case, the United States has 50 states, and it's going to tell us the top states that are looking for this. That might be interesting if we are focusing on a geography. We get related topics. So we can delve into this a little bit more and increase our brainstorming list. Related queries. Hemingway Editor is a tool. I actually used it before. It's a nice little tool. But here's something that we can do. We can use rising topics or relating queries for rising or top. We really want to look at the top. So when we do editor services, we're seeing a lot of searches for PDF editors, which we've already determined is not really relevant to us because that's a software, right? We can also look for related topics and look at the top one. Editing as a topic, services, economics. That's irrelevant. Point here is there's a lot of really great information here, but what we can do is we can then take editing services and we can put that into and compare it with editor services. Now we've got some really interesting information here. As you can see, on average, people are significantly more likely to look for the word editing services. You can see it not only on the average graph, it's almost 3 times as many people looking for, or I should say, the trends data is showing us 3 times the trend for editing services rather than editor services. We can see it based on this. We can look at top. And we can play around. Oh, well, look at this. So here under the related queries, we can compare editing and editor. And here we go. You can see that the editing not only has a lot more people looking for it, but book editing services, proofreading services, like Google is starting to think more broadly here, and we're getting new ideas that we could use. So what we're able to do here from this kind of Google Trends tool is say, you know what? There are people looking for editor services. Some of these queries might not be as relevant to what we offer as an editor, because those are a lot of software things. However, even though some of these are photo or video, there are more content-oriented editing services. So not only are we learning that the editing services keyword is probably more relevant, but it's a lot more people are looking for it. And so that's the next step, is to go through our keyword list and let's just throw another one in. Let's throw in professional editing services. We can actually go to the top. We can add yet another word. See, as we'd expect, a more specific query, professional editing services, a lot less people are interested in that because it's more specific, right? It's the long tail. But that does give us opportunity because professional editing services is more specific, but it might end up having a higher conversion rate because it's really what people are looking for when they search for you. But the point here, what we're trying to do is gather data for our queries so we can compare them to each other. So editor services has an interest of 21, editing services 61, professional editing services 5. So what I would like to do is go here and I'm going to put my numbers next to it. 21, 61, 5, right? This helps me know and check my own assumptions because I have data from Google Trends showing me which phrases people tend to look for more often. This helps me establish what I should be focusing on. And that's why it's so important to gather data for your keywords. Once we've gathered data for our keywords, then we need to organize our keywords. And this is where it's important to remember that Google thinks in terms of topics, not phrases. A long time ago in SEO, I'm embarrassed to say, I had a client that was a lawyer, and we built a page for them about lawyer in their town. And then we built another page for them because they were also an attorney in their town. And then we built another page because they do lawsuits in their town. And then we did another page for law firm in their town, all on the same website because we are thinking every one of those keywords needed their own optimized page. Let me show you something here real quick. We go to Google now. Again, we type lawyer in Charlotte, North Carolina. Notice that Google is giving us answers for attorneys. Also, notice that. Now, if you're in England, barrister, right? In the United States, we don't call them barristers, but the point is that Google's smart. And Google knows that some things are synonymous. A lawyer is an attorney. A lawyer is also a barrister. It knows this. So we don't need to create a separate page for every keyword. However, we do need a separate page for every topic. And so that's why we need to go through our list. And we say, okay, editor services and editing services, that is probably the same topic. I'm just going to color code this for us here real quick. And maybe professional services might be the same. We're just going to go ahead and copy that same. But academic, that's a different topic. It's a different skill set, right? Academic editing is a different style of writing. There's a different criteria for proof. You have to use different style guides depending on which your university prefers. That's a totally different topic. So we're going to organize our keywords based on what they have in common as far as topic and not just focus on the keywords. Think of the fact that sometimes Google thinks things are synonyms and sometimes they don't. Also, realize that some topics are a little different than others. And then finally, we're going to focus our keywords. And, this is where we just have to say, hey, we were all beginners at one time. And a common SEO keyword research beginner mistake is to optimize all the pages. If we're an editor, we're going to put editor on every page. Editor, editor, editor. All of my title tags are going to say editor. I'm going to cram editor and all the keyword meta tags. This is a rookie mistake. That won't help Google, when it tries to give someone an answer to a query they enter into the search engine, always gives a particular web page as an answer. They don't rank, sometimes SEOs will say it, they don't rank sites, they rank pages, right? And so what we need to make sure is, as we think about the different topics of our that we've organized into, academic editing is very different than professional editing, and it's different from blog editing, for example. That's where we should make sure, number one, we have pages dedicated to these topics. And two, we don't just try to optimize all the things for editor. We try to focus on every page on a topic. And so what this is telling us is that we're going to need several pages on our website based on different services or topics or different aspects of the services we have to offer. And having that kind of focus and not just trying to optimize site-wide for the same idea is the better way to do an SEO campaign. So we want to think of, for every topic we can think of, we need a new page. There's going to be several phrases that fit under a topic, and we kind of identified that on our brainstorming sheet. Editor services, editing service, it's kind of the same thing. So we don't need separate pages for that. That's the same idea. And so this helps us learn things like, okay, well, we might have some pages on the site, and we probably want to start optimizing some of the pages on our site based on some of the phrases we've done, but maybe we need to write some new pages on our website, right? Maybe we need to add some additional pages because there's services we offer. But you notice while we were going around, we identified some other questions that are related to what we have to offer. Wouldn't these make great blog posts? Yeah, they would. So not only are we focusing particular pages that sell services or products, for example, but now we've got a whole bunch of things to do to write about for blog posts, right? What are editing services? How much does it cost to have a book edited? Like, this would make a great blog post, walking someone through the idea of how much time and effort it takes, and maybe, talking your process and really showcasing your experience as a book editor. And that would make a really great blog post that could help someone find you for that long tail, right? Because the long tail is the one that's most likely to convert. And that's this very, very specific phrase. And so we write a nice long blog post that has a really great opportunity to get all these very specific phrases that we can't predict, that don't even show up in the tools. And from that, we can get some great traffic. So that is the final step to our keyword process, is to focus our keywords. And so now that we've done the keyword research, now we can start to begin our SEO campaign. First of all, we've determined whether or not people are looking for what we have to offer. People are looking for editing services. We've shown that. We've got data to prove it. If they weren't, then maybe we need to think about other marketing channels besides SEO, because SEO is really responding to demand. And if no one's looking for what you have to offer, SEO can't create the demand for it. But once you know that people are looking for you, now you can begin to categorize and optimize your pages, to think about what topic you're going to focus on for each page and what phrases should be included on that page so that people can find what they're looking for. Maybe you need to write some new pages that you haven't thought of yet. Great. Now you've got some ideas and you know how your customers are looking for you, so you know what to say. Link building could be a entirely new topic, but just to say that be careful when you do link building. Please read up on Google's what they call link schemes before you do any link building, or God forbid, pay a service for that. But keyword research will help you know, maybe there's other websites that would be great partnerships. Maybe there's other websites that would like to talk about you. There's all kinds of great link building aspects to knowing how your customer's looking for you, so you can find other websites that might be interested in linking to you. So This is the keyword research process, and I've spoken for a long time, and so maybe it's time to take some questions.
Sorry, I was typing when you said that. Typing over on the keyboard and then trying to get to my mute button.
I should have like a code to like,
right,
oh, I'm ready.
All good, all good. So yeah, we've been answering a few by typing some as well.
Great.
And actually, the question at the very top by Susan, it's flagged to answer live, but I was just reading it closer, and it's a little bit more specific to the WordPress reader and the use of tags and stuff. So I'm actually typing up an answer for Susan.
Okay, good.
I'll put into the Q&A for her on that one. So yeah, just moving down from there, if you wanted to scan through some of these questions here. Lupita's got a couple there about.
Yeah, so that's interesting. How about blogs that tell stories, people and places stories? How do we package this for more people to see, read, and become interested in the blog? Well, that's a very interesting question. So Lupita, I'd ask, what do you want to accomplish by having more readers? Are you trying to tell stories about travel so that they would hire you as a tour guide? Are you trying to tell stories that would be a sample of a book that you might want to sell them? Ask yourself what it is you hope someone will accomplish when they come and do find your website. And from there, you can kind of get into the whole purpose of your website and why people might search to find you. If you are just enjoying the love of writing and telling stories, and you just want people to enjoy and engage that, you don't even necessarily have to worry about SEO, right? You don't necessarily have to think about keywords. Just write and enjoy and just embrace that, and know that some people might find. But if your story is trying to tell a point, if your story is trying to help someone through a troubled problem, maybe you have a bad experience and you're trying to tell stories so that others can benefit from that, then you want that story to accomplish something. You want people to be supported and encouraged. So then you could do the keyword research process to find, well, how might some of these people who are having this struggle be looking for? What are some of the topics they may be wanting, and incorporate that. So if it's a blog, great. And you might not need to worry about keyword research. It's not that Google will ignore you if you don't do this. But if you are trying to accomplish something with your blog, then take the time to do the keyword research to make sure you're incorporating those ideas onto your website.
Yeah, and I think Lupita had actually expanded a little bit further down there, where I think the point was, is there a hope for blogs that are telling stories rather than selling products or services? And I think you've answered that really well, David, because yes, I do think it's not necessary to be selling a product or service to do well with SEO. You're telling a story, and that story could very well impact the lives of others. So as you said, when there's a message being told or shared in that, work that into your keyword. Because if somebody is looking through Google for ideas or information to help them get through something, they're going to search for those types of keywords.
Right.
So yeah, absolutely. I think there is a lot of hope for that, Lupita.
Yeah, and I think Lupita asked a really great question. Do titles matter? And what is the best advice for SEO as far as titles go? It's really interesting. Depending on titles matter a great deal for SEO. In several factors. Number one, like, it's typically what Google's going to show in the search result when people find you. So the more direct and clear your title of each post or each page is going to be, not only will Google be more likely to serve that to people who are asking for it, but when people see it in the search results, then they're going to be more likely to click on it because this person's answering my question. This is a topic about which I'm interested. Sometimes, however, people write blog posts, they think about it from a social media perspective. Now, social media is all about the clicks. It's all about the engagement. And so sometimes they'll dance around the topic, and they won't really, the title will almost be so clickbaity, you don't really know what you're going to get. And so that might work well on a Facebook campaign, but if you're trying to be found in search, be direct. I like to recommend blog posts are evergreen. In other words, you really want to focus on topics that are going to stand the test of time. There's always going to be a need for something that's limited by time. Black Friday deals, or how to have a great holiday season. There's all kinds of, there's going to be times when you're going to have to write about a seasonal or something limited, but the better posts are going to be always about topics that are always going to be true and interesting. So think about that when you write your title. The more direct and clear, and the better your title describes what people are going to find when they click on that link in the search results, the better it's going to perform in Google.
So how many more slides do you have left, David? Are we?
That's it. That's it.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So we're 4 minutes to the hour. How are we doing? We've still got most of our participants. This is lovely. Our participants have stayed right through to the end. You've been very engaging.
Good.
Do you have an extra few minutes to go past the hour to answer a few questions, or are you on a tighter timeline? I didn't think to ask that earlier.
My tummy is growling, but I will be happy to stick around for a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. Well, did you want to maybe just have a quick scan? I see there's a couple of shorter questions as well. Is there anything there that maybe you can just touch on real quick, and then we'll wrap it up in a couple of minutes or so here.
Okay. Does SEO work the same way for YouTube searches as it does for Google searches? No. But the keyword research process could help you as you are doing a YouTube search, right? People are looking for things on YouTube. If you want, YouTube, some would say, is the second largest search engine in the world, second only to Google, of course. And so to go through the keyword research process, you might find that, number one, people aren't producing videos about topics that you can answer. Number two, you'd know how to speak about the topic in a way that people would want to find it. So you can use the keyword research process we talked about outside of a WordPress context for a YouTube context, and it would help you a lot. But the whole ranking algorithm is very different. Can you share some of the best practices we'll use in a keyword planner? So Juan Carlos, you asked about the Google Ads Keyword Planner, which I refer to as the gold standard in keyword research process. What I do when I use the keyword research planner is I will go and take my big long list of brainstormed keywords, and I will enter that as you can enter a bulk of keywords, and you could tell Google, hey, give me the search volume for all these phrases. And it will tell you, so many people a month search for this, nobody searches for that. And it just helps this process, makes it a lot faster rather than going a word at a time in the Google Trends interface. There are several pieces of data in the Google Ads Keyword Planner that I really like to consider. Search volume gives us an estimate of a monthly average searches for that given phrase. Competition tells us how many people are competing for that words in Google Ads. While we're not doing a Google Ads campaign, if people are competing for it in Google Ads, and I can get that visitor for free through organic search, that's great. Google Ads will also suggest to us how much someone paid per click in the keyword planner. Again, if someone's willing to pay for a click, that probably means they're making money from that. And so maybe we should pay attention to that from an organic perspective too. So you can consider all these data points and really get some really great keyword data. Can you give an example, Luke asks, about a topic or phrase in the search, topic versus phrase as if the search is for a realtor? Thank you. You're welcome. So realtor is an interesting phrase. Realtor is a licensed phrase within the United States, and you have to have certain qualifying considerations to be considered a realtor as opposed to a real estate agent. So I'd suggest that Google knows the difference, and we can test that. We can go to Google and we can type real estate agent in Charlotte, North Carolina. And you'll, that's very interesting. Realtor.com comes up. Find realtors and real estate agents. So even Realtor.com, who owns the licensing on the phrase, is trying to get both of them. Charlotte Realtor from Zillow. Okay, so I just proved myself wrong. And that realtor and real estate agent, Google seems to be using as synonyms. So what that tells us is that we can go deeper into the keyword research and start to say, all right, how many people are looking for one versus the other? But the good news is that you might be able to get away with one page focusing on both words as a common topic and be able to get some traffic for that. Realtor is a very competitive phrase, very difficult to reach, but it sounds to me, Luke, like they are synonyms. Juan Carlos is asking, is it a good practice to do posts in our blogs to focus on topics better? So yeah, one of the hopes of doing the keyword research process, frankly, is to uncover topics about which we can blog. I like to think of it, SEO pages, as two different things. One I'd call a landing page, which is a page focusing on a keyword that I think is going to, did you see what I did there? A topic that I think is going to produce customers or sales or whatever my goal is, my website. That's what I call a landing page. That's a page that's optimized for people who are looking for what I have to offer done. That page should have some call to action where I can ask for the sale. You're here, you need a realtor, contact me, I'll be your realtor. That's a landing page. But blog posts, I think of as a different category. That should be something that answers a question, that talks about something that is useful and helpful to my visitors. So in a blog post, I really think about different. I want to make sure people are looking for the topics in my blog posts, right? But the blog post is written from a different perspective. It's written almost from an altruistic, helpful perspective of answering the question, not necessarily making a hard sale. Now, I do like at the end of a blog post to have a paragraph. Oh, by the way, we provide this as a service and you should contact us or visit this page linking to the landing page to learn more about the service that we offer. But a blog post, I think as a rule, should be helpful and informative and useful so that it supports the landing page. So in other words, the blog post is about getting that long-tailed traffic, that very, very specific, all the number of people looking for that phrase, and then getting those people on to the landing page where we make the final hard sell of our services. So they are related, but I like to think of them as two different kinds of pages.
All right, we are 4 minutes past the hour.
Yeah.
Questions just keep coming in. People are loving the topic, which is fabulous. But realistically, we're not going to be able to get through all of these questions. We'd all love to stick around all day and answer questions, but like I say, unfortunately, that's not going to be able to be possible. So I think this is probably a good time to break. Everybody who is still with us here, you can see on the screen that David does have some contact points there, so you can reach out on Twitter. David, would I be correct in saying that if they were to post some questions on Twitter, that you might eventually be able to?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Perfect.
Please do.
So yeah, and the nice thing about doing it through something like Twitter like that is that it's more visible, more public, so other people can benefit from your questions as well.
Yeah.
And that one-to-many is always a much better setup and situation than one-on-one answers. So please do think of following him on Twitter and asking questions. His website address is also there that you can check out more. And I'm going to switch the screen sharing over to my own screen now. And can I find the right one? There we go. Perfect. All right. So we are going to wrap it up here. I want to thank everybody hugely for joining us today and sticking with us right through to the end like this and going past the hour. I want to thank David for such great information. My goodness, I guess I could turn my video on too here. You can see me talking. Yeah, such great information that David has shared. I've learned a lot as well, and I deal with websites every day, but there's always something new to get out of how things have changed and what are the best practices, and always tips and tricks. So that is fabulous. Thank you again, David. Thank you to all of our attendees, and thank you to my colleagues for helping out and for doing the live stream on YouTube. That's a first time for that. So for all the YouTube viewers, thank you also for joining us and watching. And those of you watching the replay, I hope you enjoy it as well. So lots of stuff, lots of thank yous. Quick note, we do have other webinars as well, so be sure to go to WordPress.com/webinars, and you can check out the other topics. I will say we'll have some new topics also coming in the new year, so definitely be keeping an eye out for that. We also have some free online courses. Currently, we have courses specifically on blogging and podcasting. We also have one on SEO. That's actually how we met David. He found our course and we got talking. He's part of our community. So yeah, there's lots of stuff in there, and we're actually going to be doing some tweaks and updates to that because of David, because he's given us some great information. So be sure to check those out. And we have a brand new course called Create Your Site. And that one is literally walking you through how to create a site, your first site from scratch. Or more specifically, if you're new to the new site editor and what's been called full site editing, using templates, all that kind of stuff, if you've been thinking about exploring that, check out the Create Your Site course. It's for beginners, and it will walk you through those pieces one by one. So right now that's at wpcourses.com. Come the new year, you will actually find it in a new home at WordPress.com/learn. So we're in the process of revamping that site. So I wanted to mention that because especially with the replay of this webinar, if you happen to watch that later on, that's probably where the courses will be located. So be sure to check that out. And last but not least, if you simply just feel overwhelmed or don't have the time to build your own website, we do have services that allow us to build it for you. So you can check that out at WordPress.com/ it's do it for me with hyphens in between it. I'm not going to spell that out. You can see it on the screen. Those QR codes will work as well. So if you want to scan them, you can do that. And I believe that wraps up my little closing spiel. So once again, thank you, everyone. The one thing I will do is I'm going to leave the webinar screen open for a few minutes. There's been a lot of questions answered through typing, so feel free to go over to the full list. You should be able to set it to see all questions, and you can copy and paste information out of the Q&A. The chat box doesn't work so well for that. For some reason, Zoom does not like to allow copy paste out of the chat box in a webinar. We were never able to get them to sort that out. So thank you again. I'm going to turn off my mic and my video, and after a few minutes, everything will just shut down automatically. Have a wonderful rest of your week.